next panel is building a competitive sports business in a crowded marketplace. That crowded marketplace being where we are right now, being Toronto. And I think I'll have you all just introduce yourselves and give a quick bio. And Bill, I'll start with you.
All right. Bill Manning, work for MLSE, and I'm in charge of Toronto FC and the Toronto Argonauts.
Bob Hunter, recently appointed chairman and CEO of the Toronto-Wolfpack.
I'm Jamie Dawick. I'm the owner, president, and general manager of the Toronto Lacrosse Club.
I'm Jeff Atkinson. I am the president of the annual Honda Indy Toronto car race in town.
So as mentioned, all work and focus in Toronto, but that being said, how would you define your market?
Well, I think for the annual Indy event that takes over Toronto, you really look at the data, and we've obviously heard a lot about data the past couple hours, and the data tells you a couple things. It tells you who your customer is and who your customer is not. And then you look around, you say, who do we want the customer to be? So you really look at the city overall. With an annual Indy event, you're getting a lot of people from out of town because it is a staple on the summer schedule. So we're so lucky to get a lot of tourists into the city for that event. But ultimately, it's the people in Toronto that help make the event possible. So you look around and you say, hey, how can we get more Torontonians down there? How can we get more people from the 905? And that's really who we try to obviously market to.
Jamie?
Yeah, well, Toronto's one of the best sports towns in the world. There's no doubt about that. The challenge for us as the Toronto Rock is the time of year we play and where we play, and we really kind of go up against the two biggest, best sports franchises in the town. So, but this is a great sports city, a great entertainment city, and we believe there's lots of room for all of us.
As a long-standing 3-year-old club, I think we're still learning. We're still trying to figure out who that is. I mean, our location is absolutely magic given that it's in the middle of Liberty Village. And so that demographic that everyone wants to go after, that 25 to 40-year-old, is right where they live. So we've been working a lot in that sector, trying to establish our brand, but we're also a very niche sport. So not well known, not a lot of play at the community and youth level, but that's all part of the challenge going forward.
Yeah, so, in a lot of ways, I think the market defines who you are, and not the other way around. With the soccer team, with TFC, we've grown organically in a lot of ways since back in 2007. It's a younger crowd. They enjoy the games differently than most of the other teams in town, although your guys come close with your beer gardens. And they, we reach all over the GTA. I think last night we had almost 4,000 season ticket holders in Vaughan. So we get the suburbs, and Mississauga is a big market for us, and Oakville. But obviously a lot of city-centric. A lot of people come down to Liberty Village, and it's been, it's been marketed as a kind of a young, progressive audience, and the culture we've tried to build there is winning. With the Argonauts, you have an older fan base who've been with the Argos for many, many years, care deeply about that team, and what we're trying to do with MLSE is provide some stability for the franchise. We just brought Pinball Clemens, who I think is going to have a major effect on the team, and to try to reintroduce in a lot of ways the CFL brand of football to this marketplace, and to show them what an enjoyable event it is and how good these athletes are, and to spice it up a bit. And that's our goal there. And so, with the Argos, it's to really light a fire. And with TFC right now, it's really to continue what we've been doing and continue to embrace our fan base.
Bob, you said that with the Wolfpack being so young, everyone's still trying to figure it out, and now it's a different level now that they've been promoted to Super League, and you're bringing in big international stars like Sonny B. Williams just in the last couple of weeks. How difficult is it to try and fit in this market while also competing internationally?
Well, I think those are two key things in sort of launching our brand and getting more recognition in the marketplace. You sign what could be the best rugby player ever, and you get promoted to the top league of professional rugby. So, as we all know, it's very, very tough, we all four sit here, to get that level of attention. And so we've almost had to buy it. And we think that that is a big attraction from a fan base standpoint, from a sponsorship standpoint. And so it's joking, you got to run with the big boys. So.
How much time is spent on focusing on the competition when you are in a marketplace like this, or is it something that you don't think of often and more focus on yourself?
So with the Honda Indy Toronto, we do not view the stick and ball sports as competitors. You know, I look around town, I might look at a summer festival or even Broadway as a competitor to us because it's entertainment. And, you know, at the end of the day, the core value being the sporting event with the car race happening on the streets, it's really the entertainment that's going on away from the racetrack, which we're trying to market new fans to. You know, our fan base for a number of years was very much aging, and it was a fan base that I did not think was sustainable. So 4 years ago, we made the decision to go focus heavily on our family programming, create programs like the Rookie Racer program, which has been very successful, and ultimately focus on the stuff away from the racetrack. You know, guests at the event here are spending 6 hours plus a day, so they need rest areas, and we've talked long about fan experience. And for us, it's, you know, we know our customers in the seats for about an hour and a half. So what are we doing the rest of the 4 or 5 hours our fans are there, or our future fans, I should say. So, you know, it's really about our festival goer we market to. So as it pertains to us, we are not concerned with the stick and ball sports, but I could see how maybe they're concerned about one another in their own category.
Jamie?
Yeah, well, and I've always said this from the day I bought the team. Well, let's start with the Maple Leafs. Like this is a Toronto Maple Leafs town, and you know, don't fight it, embrace it. It was my kind of thing. I wasn't. I didn't really look at them as a competitor. You know, it's really in a different price bracket and a different thing, and everyone's going to love that. The Raptors obviously been very successful. I mean, I think more like you said, we look at trying to reach the other people, compete more with the theaters, the shows, the things that people can do outside of the sporting world. I think you get a lot of crossover in the casual sports fan, but you know, for us, the smaller market teams, I think it's more important to get out to the people, you know, that don't know who you are, because none of us have a product issue. The products are all great. It's about exposing it to new people.
Any thought?
I concur with what Jamie said. No, I think it's getting attention. It's getting interest levels up. And again, and I say it with great pride, we're a very unique product in that it is not mainstream. So maybe our message has got to be louder, maybe it's got to be a bit stronger. And you know, having the Arrows in the market as well is important as another rugby, although union, I think any playing of rugby is really, really important to us. So we got to build the sport. That's one of our big challenges.
So this is on the competition, right?
Yeah.
I spend 100% of my times on improving the competition to win. And at the end of the day, I'm just a firm believer that if you have a good product, a team that wins, you're going to sell more tickets, you're going to sell more sponsorship, you're going to sell more merchandise. So we don't do anything that doesn't either enhance our ability to win, and if it is a negative effect on winning, we don't do it. So it's 100% of my time.
So that being said, winning can always bring in fans and some bandwagoners, but how do you toe the line between engaging your hardcore fans, and Bill, I'll start with you, but also trying to bring on new fans and maybe even casual fans?
Yeah, I mean, it's a fine balance, and you know, it's something that we wrestle with every day. I think your hardcore fans, they want a good team, and they're generally going to be with you through thick and thin. You know, the Argonauts, for example, have had a couple of tough years, and there is a core group of hardcore fans that are going to be with us no matter what. But you want to reward them, and you want to reward your fans with a winning team. And in TFC, we've kind of created now a culture of winning, which is an expectation now amongst our hardcore fans, which is interesting. And, you know, but when you talk about the excitement of games and what you can do around the game presentations and the environment and social media and all that, that's a great way to attract fans, but it doesn't take away from winning. You know, providing a great game atmosphere doesn't take away from winning. So I think there's so many things you can do to make the people that come to your games excited. But I just find generally when you have a good product on the field and you win your home games, they go home happier. And so that's what we really try to focus on.
Bob, how much focus goes on to making it more of an experience and not just an event, not just a sporting event?
You win every game.
Well, we were lucky going 28-1 this season. That certainly helps without a doubt. But I think the reality is it's kind of everything. We heard it in the last panel. It's everything about customer experience. And we joke and say we have the best beer garden in the city. But the reality is we're in the middle of Liberty Village, and that's what a lot of our fans want. And that's what the casual fans want. We've got 4,000 to 5,000 pretty hardcore season seat holders who are, I always joke, they're all from the UK at some point. And but it's the other 5,000 to 6,000 people that we need to fill the stadium, that it's all about the experience. And it's all about a great Saturday afternoon in downtown Toronto. And so we focus a lot of effort on that experience.
Jamie, what about you?
Well, I mean, winning definitely helps. I think, if you're not putting a good product on the floor or the field or whatever it may be, it does make it a real challenge, especially, for teams like ourselves. So I agree with, Bill, as far as first and foremost, it's about winning on the floor, and that's only going to help you. But then you've got to take that message, and the challenge for, some of us more than others is the challenge of getting that message out. Social media I always say social media is a great avenue to get your message out, but it's only getting the message to the people that are already getting your message, really. So obviously there's ways to expand on that where it gets out, but that to me is the key. We have to put a good product on the floor in this marketplace for sure.
What's been the best way of getting the word out?
Well, we're still working on that because we're not full yet. So, it's where you spend your money, and how you spend your money and who you're trying to reach. I can't tell you how many times I've had people come up to me and say, hey, the Rock should run a We the North campaign. And I just, he laughs right away because it's just not, it's not doable for someone, teams. It's not in our business model and this and that, the economics of that. So that's the challenge is how do you, take a reasonable amount of money, but not reasonable as far as what other leagues and sport and spend that money and make it a good investment. And so, you try and get something that's going to give you numbers and feedback and keep going with the successful things and not be scared to move on from the things that don't work.
Well, you're very cautious in what you invest in. One of the items last year, obviously with the Raptors advancing throughout the playoffs, for us, we had to make a decision, get lost in that clutter, because how are you going to market against a team that's going all the way to the finals? And we talked about having a winner. Well, we're 1 week in a year at the Indy event, and 1 week in a year, that means you have to wait till your next race to tell a different story. And yes, we have a lot of winners in our races, but at the end of the day, we got to sell our festival and fan experience. So, the beer gardens, all of that. It's really difficult, but exciting at the same time to try to do these new pushes, these new interactive areas with our partners that want to activate and meet our guests and festival goers to really put the event together. So ultimately, it comes down to how do you separate yourself from, what's going on in the market at any given time.
Do you look at other markets and see how they've succeeded in crowded areas?
Yeah, I mean, you do. You look around, whether it's in the U.S. or here in Canada, best practices, absolutely. I mean, through my career in the NFL and the NBA and MLS, I know a lot of people, and if something's working in another market, you talk about it and you see it doesn't necessarily correlate sometimes. I was in a small market in Salt Lake. What you could do there is not going to work here in a big city like Toronto. But of course, you do want to take best practices. That's why a conference like this is really good. You hear different things. You meet different people. I'm a big believer in that.
I think a current theme just throughout the day today has been talking about the next generation and the millennials and the generation after that and trying to engage them. How have you maybe shifted your focus to try and engage that next generation?
So for us, we obviously looked at the sustainability of the event over the long term. And we looked at it and we thought we were missing an entire generation. I could sit here all day and talk about the complexity of how IndyCar and what was Champ Car at the time had a split like the NHL and WHA in the 90s, and we lost a fan base. So, as we came back with the 2016 iteration of the Honda Indy Toronto, we decided to ignore a generation and focus on the adults who had positive memories before that, who now have children. And that's how we really created that rookie racer program. On top of that, we created a program called the Champions Club, which awarded our most loyal consumers. They needed something to obviously be excited about on an annual basis. And the Champions Club program gave them access to stuff they couldn't believe that they received. So, it really comes down to what are the specifics about your sport. And in our case, we can look at our properties and how it impacted the split with our event and how we should market those potential consumers, and at the same time ignore a group which we will eventually market now that we've reestablished positive memories in the generation afterwards.
Jamie?
Yeah, for us, it's at the grassroots level with the kids and getting the kids playing, and that's really outside of the Toronto side of it. That's our focus really. Built a facility out in Oakville. That's a year-round facility, giving these kids the opportunity to play. And I think for a sport like us, you want to get them involved early. It's a great. Obviously, it's got the hockey link. Back in the day, a lot of the hockey guys used to play lacrosse in the summer, and I know it's kind of changed to more of a year-round thing. But grassroots, get the kids playing, get them out exercising, and that's number one focus for me on that side.
Lacrosse is our national sport.
It is our national summer sport, yes. I say that because if I just let it go, someone will come back at me, but yes, it absolutely is.
Bob, has most of the focus with the Wolfpack since it came into existence been on the younger generation?
Well, it's certainly one of our key strategies, but I would say that we're a long way from where we need to be. And to Jamie's point, is you got to start at that age group, and you got to build your fan base. So this is not a short-term investment from our standpoint. We got some pretty significant community programs that we're executing, and that all connects that youth to the Wolfpack. And I think, again, part of your first question, we rely almost entirely on social media. That's where we go to farm that young millennial. So,
Bill, how have you seen since Toronto FC won the MLS Cup, how have you seen a shift in your progression within the city?
We definitely have I would say a larger profile, more acceptance that we've gone out and won now. The fact that we sold out the stadium for almost 18 months really legitimized us. 28,000 plus every single game, and the TV ratings have grown over 50%, and so we were able to capture our portion of the market, and I think this town appreciated what we did on the field and some of the players that we went out and bought in here. And so, I think Toronto FC is definitely a part of this city and a fabric, part of the fabric of this city. With the Argonauts, the Argonauts are the oldest franchise, even older than the Maple Leafs, but we've lost. Talk about millennials. There's probably no millennial fans that go to our Argos games, which is a real challenge. We've lost, a generation or two of fans for that team, and so we really have our work cut out for us. The thing we've found, and just some surveys we're doing and so on, is the people that do come to the game really enjoy it, and so we're going to market very heavily to to a younger age group and try to get them out and to see what we're all about. And I think, the Argos, not that long ago, although it is pretty long ago, 40 years ago, we're getting 35, 40,000 a game. It's really interesting when you look back and you say, wow, they were filling up stadiums. But we definitely have stabilized the franchise, and now it's putting a better product in the field and engaging with a younger fan base. So very, very important.
Before we open up the floor to questions, I just want to ask each of you, in your current role, what's maybe the biggest lesson that you've learned?
Well, the biggest lesson, I think, for me is just, all these ideas. We're all creative people in our organization, and, for us, we just can't try one thing and then wait the next day and try something else. We have to wait an entire year. So you really have to pick and choose your strategy, your plans, how you're creative, what you're creative with in order to implement. And it's just been something that, we set out 5 years ago with a plan, and we've stuck pretty much to our 5-year plan, but it's been a long 5 years, but it's also been an exciting 5 years. Our event's been growing since 2015 by 30%. So, we've seen a huge uptake in our fans and festival goers, and now the next challenge is, what does the next 5 years look like? And that's going to be the exciting challenge we'll look at moving forward.
Well, we're sorry, I've lost my train of thought a little bit.
Biggest lesson learned?
Don't be complacent. Don't you can't stop. You got to keep going and never accept failure, and learn from your lessons. Continue to go with the good ones and move on from the ones that, don't be afraid to say that didn't work. Put it in the rear and move on, because I think that's the biggest thing I've learned. You just stay kind of status quo and scared of change. Things don't get better.
Being a former MLSCer, I've now figured out how rugby works, which is always good. But the reality is that the sport, the business of sport is exactly the same, and our challenges are exactly the same as they were at MLSC. But I think best understanding our hardcore fans and their expectations, and then that casual fan, how do we get them to the ardent side? So it's a lot of discovery now and a lot of learning.
Yeah, for me, it's my 26th year as a sports executive. It's just never, ever easy, ever. And it's never lost on me. Bob was just asking me, oh, you have plans to go on vacation now? Season's over. I'm like, nope, went right back at it. And because it's not easy. And, Jamie mentioned, if you're complacent, you will get surpassed by your competitors and by, other teams. And so it is not easy. I've been waiting to sit back, put my feet up, have that kind of job, and it's just never going to happen in this business. This is a business, it's dog eat dog, and you got to get at it every single day. And that is, at this stage of my career now, I've totally figured out, lesson learned, it is not easy.
Okay, we'll open the floor up for questions. Just remember to introduce yourself before you ask your question.
Hi, my name's Rob. I'm a first-year student at Georgian College, and this question is more for Mr. Manning. The Toronto Argos are by far the most successful team in the CFL. If I'm not mistaken, you guys have 17 World Cups. Correct me if I'm wrong. But you guys have had lots of a winning attitude moving forward. Unlike Mr. Hunter, where he's starting less than 5 years ago, how does that change your approach to the way things have been done with the Argos in the past?
Yeah, so, the Argos, 17 Grey Cups, but we're actually, in some ways, have the oldest startup franchise in North America, because in a lot of ways we're trying to rebuild the Argos. And the CFL, we are in the largest city, but we're the weakest link in a lot of ways. And We've stabilized it with our MLSE ownership. We have to put a winning product on the field. That's kind of the next step. And then I think we're trying to make it enjoyable for people to come down to the games, enjoy themselves. And I think Pinball Clemens is he's already added a whirlwind of energy if you've ever met him, and he's a really smart football guy. And it's just having people, I always say this, you do way better when people root for you rather than rooting against you. And right now, the Argos are in some ways, there isn't a pulse in the city for the Argos, and it's how we get there. And so it's something we're working on very hard, but we are, as the oldest franchise, we're actually in a lot of ways acting as an expansion franchise and a new franchise, and how we can relight this flame that had a lot of people in this city care about them for a long time.
So even though you guys have had kind of like a winning culture for so many years, it still changes your approach moving forward?
Yeah, it changes. So winning cultures, the best franchises in sports over longevity go through dips. Even the New York Yankees went through a big dip in the 1970s after having won forever in 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. The Argos intermittently have had some success in the 2000s with a couple of championships, 3 championships in the 2000s, I believe. But it hasn't been since the 90s where they really had sustained winning success. And so it's something that, right now we're trying to rebuild a culture within the team to that of a winning culture. And it's very hard to look back at the years of, Doug Flutie and those guys and say we have that same culture today. It's long past. And so we're trying to rebuild that. We can take lessons from the past.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, I'm Keda. I'm from Georgian College student. I have a question for Bill Mannings. I'm a fan of TFC. Mostly, I always watch home games or away games by TV shows. I have a specific questions, easy questions like, when is the hardest things for you when you create competitive sports strategy stuff?
So can you repeat that again?
Okay. When is actually, what kind of stuff that really hardest for you when you build communities and stuff?
So the hardest strategies?
Yeah.
The hardest thing is anticipating an outcome, because the fan, sometimes you think everyone's going to love this and the fans don't. And so, doing your market research, I think, is really important. Looking at best practices, sometimes if in MLS, if 15 franchises are doing this and they're having success at it, okay, we've seen there's a history of success, maybe we can introduce this into our market. The beer gardens that Bob is doing, we're going to look to do something similar. And TFC had actually done it in the early years. We got away from that a little bit with the Argos and TFC again. So I think the hardest part is anticipating the outcome on a whim. And so the key for me is really doing your research, talking to people, understanding the strategies that you're going to take. And then when you execute, you do need to be flexible. So if something isn't going the way you planned, you have to be smart enough to be flexible. Sometimes you need to make a U-turn, or if you're going that direction and it's not working, don't be the guy that falls off the cliff. Be able to turn that vehicle around and go the other direction. So I do think being proactive is really important, but sometimes you do have to be reactive when the situation explains it. So you have to be well thought out and react to the market, because the market will always give you the answers.
Thank you so much.
Does anyone else have anything to add to that?
I think you hit that pretty good. For me,
I'll take that.
I was just listening. It's bang on.
Hi, I'm Megan Longpray from Durham College. What are you doing to keep fans engaged and interacted off-season and throughout the year? What kind of initiatives do you have to keep fans engaged?
You want to take that?
Sure. To Bill's point, the season never really ends. So I think it's a matter of just keeping your profile up at all times. I mean, we do a lot of season seat holder functions, corporate partner functions, that sort of thing. But I think it's keeping, certainly for us, is keeping attention in the media. So player signings, we'll have an announcement tomorrow about our coach, just a bunch of different things that we're trying to do to just kind of keep that profile.
Yeah, for us, the funny thing is we play our season at the exact opposite time that the kids do. So while we play, start December, go through till the end of May, really that's the time that the kids start playing. So it actually gives us an opportunity to, back to my grassroots thing, for us to have a chance to stay engaged and involved through that. So we spend a lot of focus on that.
That's a big challenge for us because you have 30% of your audience who probably are your most passionate fan, and then 70% of your audience, well, they're waiting 1 year for the event to come around. So you look at what are the best ways to do it. Is it creating unique video content? That's something we very much explored last year where, unlike the team sports, they have athletes that represent them. We don't. We're a promoter and we work with race teams who then contract drivers and a race series or multiple race series. So it's a very complicated equation for us, but you try to identify unique ways that are going to keep your casual fans or festival goers interested, motivated, unique things such as whether it's special promotions, special offers that, at only this time of the year they can get something, or, releasing the content very strategically. So it's really just for us trying to challenge ourselves and making, the 362 days for the rest of the year from our 3-day event relevant.
Bob, you mentioned media, and coming from MLSE, where a lot of the focus in sports media in Toronto is on the Leafs or the Raptors.
What are those teams?
How has your focus shifted in terms of how you try and maybe engage and even educate the media?
Well, I think Jamie said it well, is you can't go head to head. You'd be blowing your brains out doing it. I think it's just unique opportunities and unique messages, and how do you get them out there to the audience that you really are looking forward to trying to draw in next season. So again, it's just, we're the small guy and we're just trying to keep our hand up so that people know that we're there, and you've got to be doing that 12 months of the year.
It is a good beer garden, though, so you should probably check it out. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Okay, I just want to thank our panelists. Thanks very much. Round of applause for our panelists.